All right, friends, Gemini is next in our zodiacal journey, the Mazzaroth, understanding the work of Messiah through the heavenly bodies. Great stuff, friends. Wonderful treasures. We've had a great journey so far. We've definitely come to find out that coincidence has become evidence. In Gemini, the sun goes through the ecliptic portion of Gemini, usually mid-late June through mid-late July. The story of Gemini is the two brothers with undying love. The message of Gemini, we're going to come to find out, is together with the firstborn, we will conquer over the bound one who deceives. The servant deacon constellations are Lepus, Canis Major, Canis Minor, and that's the big dog and the little dog, Canis the canine. So we've got big dog and little dog and Lepus the hare. Here we've got the hare is positioned next to Canis Major there in the night sky. You can see here in this graphic location of it. Let's take care of the deacon constellations first, and then we're going to get to this beautiful treasure of what Gemini holds for us. The word Canis Major is also known as Apis, or the head. And because we're speaking of the two brothers, Gemini, the twins, these two brothers, one's a half deity, half man, like a demigod, and that's the mythological story, and one is fully flesh. So we've got a greater one and then a lesser one as far as strength and ability. So we've got the big dog and little dog, and so we're going to see this as, big brother and little brother concepts here. Canis Major, the head, Apis means the head. In ancient depictions of a hawk head, oftentimes is on Canis Major. This is because the hawk, in pictorial language, indicates it is a natural enemy to the serpent. And so we see that the ancients of old taught that Canis Major, this group of stars, depicts a very chief ruler that will be good in nature, that will be a natural enemy to the serpent. This is speaking of the serpent in Genesis 3:15. The story still holds true. The stars worthy of note here is Sirius, the glowing one. Molophin means the chief. Mirazim means the ruler. And Wisdom means the shining one. These were all fulfilled in Jesus. We see in Isaiah 55:4, Revelation 1:16, Colossians chapter 1, verses 16 through 17. Neat little side note about Sirius. It means the scorching one or the glowing one. They used to call this the scorcher in Egypt, and it was because the heat would get so intense, right, that they felt like the energy from the star was joined with the energy of the sun, and this is where we get the concept of the dog days of summer. And so when this was going to be joined up with the sun, they felt like, oh man, this is the sun and the scorcher Sirius, it's going to be hot. Okay. Little dog. Canis Minor. Canis Minor, we have known as the little dog, Procyon, and Gonessa are a couple of stars worthy of note. It is a much smaller constellation. Well, immediately seeing that we're in the church age, one of my interpretive filters automatically goes to the weeping one, the one with tears, with Mary, when she was wiping, with her tears, and then proceeding, rising before. Well, she was the first one that caught the resurrected Jesus. She gave the message. She had went to the tomb and, early before the others. And so I think that's kind of neat how these two stars, are named this within the little dog. And if Jesus is the big dog, we, the church, are, would be the little dog per se. But uniquely enough, with these two stars, I want to bring noteworthy here is that Mary with the tomb, she'll go and tell the others. But Jesus says of Mary and her tears that this story with her and the tears will go forth with the gospel to the ends of the earth. No other story was given that promise, only the breaking of the alabaster box. John chapter 12, we see that the woman is Mary. She's named Mary there. And Jesus tells us that this story will go forth, i.e., it's going to go forth to all the world and be a co-messenger with the gospel story. How amazing is that? Even in the heavens, we see this connotation made available to us. We've got Lepus the hare. It's quite obvious who this points to. Our Nebo, enemy of he who comes. Yep. Sugia, the deceiver. Rachis, the bound one. Colossians 2:14 and 15 says that because of the work of Christ on the cross, the works of darkness and the law and the sin, all that was bound and disarmed. The enemy, he was robbed, he was spoiled. The principalities and powers, they were spoiled because of the cross and the work of the cross. The war was won at the cross, friends. We fight from victory, not for victory. This is definitely church age language here. We're working together with the one who has conquered death, hell, and the grave. Gemini, notice here, is right before the final constellation of the church age. I want to bring high note to this. This is going to play a really unique role in just a minute. Just before the church age closes out, just before the next to last one. Okay, I'm going to use that phrase, next to last one, the next to last message, just before the church age closes out, is this topic of the brothers with undying love. Okay, so around 1500s, the story of the brothers got adopted into Greek mythology. Well, Castor and Pollux were the name of the stars. They're actually the head stars there. And the head stars, Pollux and Castor. Castor is fully man. Uniquely enough, Castor, astronomical advances, has granted us the ability to see various kinds of light frequencies, and various telescopes can detect what's a binary star, what's a singular star. Well, Castor is a 6-star system. We see it as 1 star, but if you look up close enough, you're able to see that it's actually 6 stars that orbit each other. It's pretty neat. Well, 6 is the number of flesh, the number of man. Pollux was the one that was, the story is of this half part God, part man. Well, Castor was fully man. Well, the 6-star system, 6 the number of man, is Castor. How unique is that? Even in the creation, we see this story of Jesus, the bright morning star, right? He's a singular one, but Castor, fully flesh, and we are fully flesh. And I just think that's really neat how that kind of pulls in together. Well, the story came in around 1500s BC. Well, where does this story come from? The story of brothers of undying love, right? Well, what I want to bring inference to is that around 1500 BC is when Moses was commanded by God that the children of Issachar was to keep up with what was going on. Remember the sons of Seth passed these teachings on down past the flood through Noah and his sons, and they carried these stories. Well, Issachar was held responsible for keeping up with these, the sun, moon, and stars, and the times and signs and seasons and all this. Well, around 1500 BC, there was a story that went about. What is the story? Friends, I believe it is a messianic story that there will be a people group that will rule with Messiah to come. Messiah, the firstborn, who is human and deity, the big dog, the big brother, right? The elder brother, he's the firstborn among many brethren. We're the little, we're fully flesh. So God's message through Gemini, together with the firstborn, we will conquer over the bound one who deceives. That's Lepus, the hare. This is a beautiful story in this message. This is great teachings for us. Just a quick rundown. The stars in Gemini, worthy of note, Castor and Pollux. Castor actually means to rule with him. And we get Revelation chapter 2, verse 18, Romans 8:17, Ephesians 2:6. We also have Pollux, which means suffered or paid for suffering. How amazing is that? Jesus is the one who suffered so that we could have this union. Wasa is another star within Gemini constellation. It means great jar of wine. Great jar of wine. How amazing is that? John chapter 2, the first miracle Jesus does is that of changing water to the wine. And this is symbolic of the salvation opportunity, like this moment of this transformation, this new nature, right? And it's associated with the wedding. We're the bride of Christ. Christ, he says, I'm going away and come back for you, my disciples. I'm preparing a place for you. This is wedding language, friends. This is wonderful stuff, wonderful stuff. So this next to last, if you were to look at the 7 churches in the book of Revelation, chapters 2 and 3, the next to last letter to the church was to Philadelphia, next to last, right? Amazing enough, it's the missionary church. This is the productive church. This is, great stuff is said about it in that 6th letter. What's the number 6, dealing with man? Well, Gemini is that of the 2 brothers of undying love. Gemini is the next to last. Well, Philadelphia means the city of brotherly love. How amazing is that, right? Check this out. In Revelation 13, you have verses 1 and 2, the system of the beast clearly recognized, right? You've got the attributes of the leopard, the bear, the lion there. Well, we see that these animals are mentioned from Daniel chapter 7, okay? So these animals or nations are at play which create the system. They're the platform for which the system of Antichrist will be in operation. We know this because of Daniel chapter 7. It's the same attributes. And Daniel chapter 7 talks about they give way, right? That final animal, this 10-horned beast, right? That makes war with the saints. That's the system of Antichrist. Well, the word kings is Melech, which means a position of authority. There would be 4 specific dominions of authority to rule in the last days, the 4th being the system of Antichrist. Well, the preceding 3, what were they? Well, the preceding 3 was that of the leopard, the lion, the leopard, and the bear. So in Daniel chapter 7, you have this timeline given to us. First, the lion with the wings of the eagle that broke off became its own nation. It's not talked about again throughout, here in Daniel 7. It became its own person and a heart of a human, this image of the Son of Man, was stood on his feet as a man would. And there's this human attribute given to it, a personification unto humanness. So you've got the lion, the wings of the eagle, but the wings of the eagle were broken off. They'll be broken off, and then, and the timeline goes on, after all that happens, you've got the bear. Then you've got the leopard that has these 4 wings, right? Then you've got this issue of, after all that's done, the 10-horned beast system. Well, we all know the bear in Bible prophecy represents Russia. Okay, Russia. Well, before Russia came into massive movement, in the 1800s, it was said of the British Empire that the sun never set on the British Empire. That's how vast its reach went. Well, who broke off the wings of the eagle? Who broke off in 1776? Well, America. So you've got Great Britain, the lion, the wings break off. America, 1776. 1800s was Russia, their climb to dominance, and how they devour much flesh. A lot of blood was shed. And in the early to mid 1900s, you have this rise of Germany. Germany is that leopard, right? So you've got this leopard. Adolf Hitler was said to be the leader of the Third Reich. Friends, we saw the fourth position of headship, right? That fourth moment, the Fourth Reich revealed during the pandemic, right? And that was WEF, World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab, who runs the World Economic Forum, his dad was highly involved in Nazi Germany. You can do the research. I've done mine. I encourage you to do your own homework. It revealed its head, its influence, who was calling the shots to the elites of the world during all this craziness that happened in 2020. A German man by the name of Klaus Schwab, him and his group of people, World Economic Forum. Now we're post that. Out of all the animal references in Revelation chapter 13, verses 1 and 2, which one is missing from Daniel 7? The wings of the eagle. Wow. How amazing is that, friend? How amazing is that? Could it be the explicit reference to the Church of Philadelphia in Revelation 3:10? There's an explicit reference to the rapture of the church. Could it be that America is no longer in effect during the time of Antichrist being revealed and the system being built? That America is no longer of influence? I'll tell you what, the rapture of the church would be what would take America out, that's for sure. The first capital, the number one capital of the United States, it wasn't Washington, D.C. It was Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Wow, friends. This is some really cool stuff. Some beautiful treasures I've come to discover and just want to share with you.